we're going to dive into a really innovative system called TerraSignal. It's designed for coastal communities, the people on the absolute front lines of climate change, to help them navigate what is an increasingly unpredictable future. For generations, people have read the signs in nature to survive, to thrive. But what happens when those signs start to, lie? When the patterns your grandfather and his grandfather all relied on just don't hold true anymore? This is the core question facing millions of people right now. To really get a handle on this, we're going to head to the coast of Mozambique. Now, this is a place where life is so deeply connected to the sea, but that very connection is now under immense pressure from a climate that is changing fast. This quote speaks to generations of local wisdom, that deep knowledge that tells you when to fish, where to farm, how to stay safe. But as climate change speeds up, that wisdom is being eroded, and the familiar patterns of nature are becoming totally unreliable. And look, this isn't just one single threat. It's like a perfect storm of interconnected problems. We're talking stronger cyclones, more frequent floods, coastlines that are literally washing away, and the steady, relentless creep of rising seas. When these environmental shocks collide with the social and economic challenges that are already there, communities become incredibly vulnerable. What's really important about this is how it puts a human face on all that data. We're talking about over 376,000 fishers. We're talking about farmers tending to their aquaculture, people who depend on mangroves for their livelihood, and especially women, who are the backbone of processing and trading seafood. Their safety and their incomes are directly on the line. Now, you might be thinking the solution is just more data, right? Better forecasts. But the problem TerraSignal is trying to solve is actually a bit more subtle than that. It's what's called the insight gap. The issue isn't a lack of information, it's a failure to make that information truly useful for the people who need it most. So let's break down this insight gap. First off, the information often isn't trusted. It might come in super technical jargon or even foreign languages. Second, it isn't actionable. A warning like heavy rain expected doesn't tell a fisher what that actually means for them or their boat. And third, it all too often arrives too late, well after the chance to prepare has already passed. And this quote just brilliantly illustrates the consequence of that gap. We have more climate data than ever before, but it's not translating into trust, it's not relevant to people's daily lives, and it's certainly not helping them act before a disaster strikes. This is the gap that absolutely has to be bridged. So how in the world do you bridge that gap? Well, this is where TerraSignal comes in. It's a system designed to fuse that deep local wisdom with modern digital intelligence, all to empower people to take informed early action. At its core, TerraSignal is a resilience intelligence system. But I want you to notice the key words here: community-rooted. This isn't about just parachuting in some high-tech solution. It's all about taking incredibly complex signals from satellites, from the environment, from social data, and translating them into guidance that is clear, trusted, and above all else, actionable. And the purpose here is really twofold. First, it's about catalyzing anticipatory action. That means helping people move from just reacting to crises to actually preparing for them. But just as importantly, it's about strengthening the entire system. It reinforces existing community networks and builds trust, which makes the whole social fabric more resilient. Okay, so that's the big idea, but how does it actually work? How does TerraSignal turn this sea of data into a clear, maybe even life-saving decision for someone on the coast? So, the process starts with AI, which pulls together all kinds of data. Everything from satellite imagery showing shoreline changes to local social patterns. The system then flags potential risks for very specific users, like an aquaculture farmer. Then it translates those complex signals into simple, plain language advice. And this is the crucial part. The final recommendations are ground truth with knowledge from local experts. The AI enhances human expertise. It doesn't replace it. This slide is the perfect example of TerraSignal's value. A standard forecast says, heavy rainfall expected. Okay, so what? What do you do with that information? TerraSignal translates it. For a group of women processing fish, it says, hey, because of the recent humidity and rain, you should use indoor drying or raised racks to prevent your product from spoiling. See the difference? One is just data. The other is intelligence. It's the so what of climate data. And of course, all this brilliant insight is totally useless if it doesn't actually reach people. So TerraSignal delivers it through channels they already use and trust. We're talking simple WhatsApp messages, basic SMS for areas with low connectivity, segments on local radio, and even a web dashboard for officials and NGOs. It really meets people where they are. All right, let's zoom out a little bit because the impact of this system goes way beyond just one fisher or one farmer. It's actually designed to strengthen the entire coastal ecosystem by providing valuable intelligence to a whole range of different groups. And the applications here are just incredibly diverse. A fisher can use it to find a safe zone for the day. At the same time, a government official can use that same data stream to plan where to build new infrastructure. Financial institutions can better assess risks for loans, while humanitarian groups can target aid much more precisely. It's one system creating these amazing ripple effects of resilience across the whole society. So, what's next for this really promising project? Well, TerraSignal is currently moving from a powerful concept to a real-world pilot, and it's got a very clear vision for the future. And it's definitely not going it alone. The project has already secured seed funding, and it's backed by some key technical partners like Digital Earth Africa and Esri, who provide the data and the geospatial tools. This kind of collaboration is absolutely essential for making the pilot phase a success. The plan for growth is ambitious, but it's also really logical. It all starts with a 12-month pilot on the coast, focusing on co-design and getting tons of community feedback. From there, the plan is to expand inland to help farmers who are facing drought and floods. And the long-term vision? To scale this model across all of Mozambique and eventually the entire African continent. Now, what's really smart about this whole thing is the financial model. The core intelligence will always be free and open access for the local communities and frontline users who need it most. To make sure it's viable in the long run, institutions like development agencies, insurers, and government bodies will pay for access to the platform to help with their planning and operations. And that really brings us to our final thought. TerraSignal represents a fundamental shift in how we think about this stuff. It proposes that true resilience isn't just about bouncing back after a disaster. It's about having the wisdom and the tools to read the signals, understand the risks, and act before the storm ever arrives.